going to have to make sure that the transition to this new formula makes sense. So we're going to go to a 10-year phase-in rather than an 8-year phase-in under the original plan. We're going to phase down the charge-off from 20. Again, one of the real strengths of the governor's plan was to eliminate the phantom revenue question, but doing that up front, all in one fell swoop, gave benefit to property wealthy districts up front, while a lot of the benefit to the property poor districts were spread out over time. So the idea is to gradually lower the charge-off from 23 to 20 mils over 6 years, so that the benefit to the rich districts happens at approximately the same time as the benefit to the poor districts are phased in. On additional days, we're going to maintain the goal of extending the school year when fully phased in. On the teacher ratio, again, this is one issue that came up again and again and again in committee. What do we do with the 15-to-1 K through 3 ratio? How many new teachers do we have to hire? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to phase in that ratio. We're going to start at 19-to-1 the first biennium, which is essentially what the average is right now in K through 3, and then we're going to lower it over the next 6 years. Administrative costs, we're going to align the phase-in with the funding so that the administrative costs of district administration, operations, and maintenance will be phased in quicker. And in addition, we're going to do a transportation supplement. So one of the issues we heard about a lot, especially out in our Marietta trip, was that rural districts that have a lot of space have a lot of issues with a lot of miles getting put on their buses very quickly. So what we were, and they needed help with the transportation, so we fully phased in their transportation, and put it outside of the gain cap. So we are fully phasing them in early. These are districts that are below the state median on property wealth as well as density. And again, this is Representative Garrison was a very strong proponent of this idea. And then we're going to maintain the funding guarantees of 100% in 2010 and 98% in 2011 as it was under the governor's original plan. And then we're going to continue with the flexibility and accountability. We're going to balance the system between flexibility and accountability. Again, a lot of the questions we received in committee and subsequent to committee were how flexible are these different components of the funding model? Do I have to go out there and hire a bunch of new teachers? Do I have to do it tomorrow? The answer is no. We're going to be essentially over the long haul, when this is fully phased in, districts that are doing well will have less prescription put on them by the model. Districts that are not doing as well or in watch or emergency will have more prescription put on them. And in addition to that, we're going to have the Department of Education adopt core academics to determine which part of these factors are core academic strategies. A few fundamental reforms will be expected of every district, such as all-day kindergarten, versus academic improvement factors like one-on-one tutoring. And the academic improvement factors will be imposed on districts that are struggling. For the first time, this model offers us a component in the model to actually drive student success. For the first time, this model will not be the problem, it will be part of the solution. And then there are going to be additional factors such as operations and maintenance that are more of a funding factor. There's going to be flexibility in there. The reasonable timeline, no reforms will be required of the districts in the first year. They will be instead required to come up with plans about how they're going to deal with this new formula. In addition, one of the real strengths of the plan was that each of these components kind of is much more transparent. You know why the money is going to a particular place for tutors or K through 3 15-to-1 ratios, whatever. So because it's more transparent through time, it's my belief that eventually these ratios will become the norm, because people will see where you're getting 60% of your money for K through 3 education, yet you're spending 60% of your money on the high school. That will tend to get districts to readjust their allocation over the long term. And so special education, we're going to use the corrected special education weights, and we restored critical special education programs. On gifted education, we allocated funding for gifted staff in every building, and in addition, enrichment funds will be multiplied by the challenge factor, which means that districts with more challenges facing them, their children will have more opportunities to do enrichment activities, such as going to arts programs and going to great museums like COSI. In career tech, we're going to be treating, one of the issues was career tech was the standalone career techs, the 106 of them, we're going to be treating them the same as the joint vocational districts, so they'll get 1.9% increase beyond current funding levels. Educational service centers, we're going to restore educational service centers to their 2009 levels, and we're going to include current gifted unit funding distributed through ESCs in the funding guarantee. Charter schools. This took up a lot of time in committee, as you can imagine. But throughout the committee process, we were committed to ensuring that more collaboration and cooperation happens between the traditional public schools and the charter schools. For too long, this fight has been an unhealthy, poisonous aspect of school funding in Ohio, and we're seeking to end that through this process. Ohio must move toward a system that allows successful charter schools to flourish while maintaining the constitutional obligation to provide an education for every student. In the governor's plan, we're going to build on the strides made in the governor's plan toward better accountability and oversight. We're going to add financial incentives and transparency, and charter schools will be funded under the same model as traditional public schools and will receive federal stimulus, Title I, and IDEA dollars in addition to the state dollars. We're going to, for charter schools that are rated continuous improvement or better, they're going to receive the statewide average educational challenge factor. And charter schools that are sponsored by school districts with at least half of their students from that district will receive that district's educational challenge factor. In addition, we're going to have more transparency when it comes to management companies, and we're going to remove the provision in the governor's plan to prohibit charter schools from contracting with for-profit management companies because of the additional oversight and standards we're going to be putting in. The tax status of the operator is less of a factor. Also, we're going to tighten standards. The mandatory provision for charter schools and academic emergency will be increased. And then finally, there's going to be a subcommittee on public charter, traditional public school collaboration and innovation in the advisory council, and they're going to look at ways to promote. It's going to be split equally between charters and traditional publics, and it's going to be looking at ways to promote more collaboration and cooperation between the traditional and the charter side, and we're going to be also having them look at some of the charter funding, look at the charter funding system.